We are passionate advocates for this concept of managing risk. And that's why this money barrel concept of having, some cash set aside for now, right? And we define now as somewhere between 1, 2, 3. Super conservative clients might go 4 years worth of cash.
Hey, what's this whole wealth journey podcast thing all about?
It's a podcast for entrepreneurs where we're trying to help them connect the meaning with their money.
Who are you?
Jim Gebhardt.
Oh, I'm Matthew Grishman, and we're a couple of financial guys having a not-so-traditional financial conversation called The Whole Wealth Journey. Here we go.
What are you grateful for today?
You always make me go first.
I do.
We did this last time. Well,
I do.
I
think out of 164 episodes, the last 3 times you've gone first.
Right, absolutely. And I'm putting my foot down because I can't do 4 in a row.
Okay.
What are you grateful for? You're going first.
Oh, I'm sitting here chomping at the bit.
You go. Does it have anything to do with the T-shirt you're wearing?
No. It's fun at 55 years old to still have firsts.
Oh, yeah.
And when I have a first in my 50s, it makes me want to go have some other first. And so last night for Grant's birthday, we got him tickets to Alice Cooper and Judas Priest.
Wow.
So for those members of the tribe that know me personally, they would know that that's probably not something I would ordinarily go do on my own in terms of my leisure.
Did they open with Chopin or Beethoven?
Peter Millar. And Grant's taste in music has evolved quite a bit in the last several years, 3-4 years, where he started with heavy rock and then went into kind of like an Elton John, Billy Joel phase, kind of a softer rock, into country, because our family's pretty into the, all the popular, more pop-oriented country musicians. That evolved into like good, deep, old Johnny Cash and Merle Haggard and, my dog died and my wife left me and I lost my job and, classic old country.
Sure.
And then he kind of like bouncing out the other side of that into heavy metal.
Wow.
He wanted to go to Metallica is still traveling or touring. They were in the Bay Area this summer and he like desperately pleaded with Beth and I to go. And we had such an aversion to the idea that there wasn't even any discussion around. It was a hard no, one time, all done.
It's probably the last time you'll be able to tell him no, he can't go to that concert.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, the last time you can say it, he'll listen to it.
Exactly. This popped up on the radar screen a couple months ago as Judas Priest, essentially the band for Alice Cooper at Shoreline Amphitheater down in the peninsula. So I threw it out to the fam, like, who wants to go? Grace was like, I'm in. And Emily and Beth were like, nah, no thanks. We had a blast.
That's great.
The people watching, the fact that Grant was so into it. And I remember our dear friend Glenn and his son, whatever phase of music his son was into, Glenn would tag along and go along for the ride. And that was a little bit of my inspiration, was the fact that don't be a stick in the mud. Don't be a fuddy-duddy on, he's into this. Enjoy it with him, right? I mean, I drag him along to some of the stuff that I'm into, like the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, there you go.
Nonetheless, the people watching before the show was outstanding because there was a lot of people that were in character for all that Alice Cooper represents.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And then the concert itself was awesome, but then watching him just sing along word for word to every song that Alice Cooper was banging out at 77 years old was awesome. And then the last thing I'm grateful for from the whole event is the fact that when your headliner is 77, they don't tend to go very late. It's not a long show.
Sure, they turn into a
pumpkin. It's not a 3-hour set, right? It was like 8. An hour and 45 minutes.
Okay.
Nice and clean in your seat. Bing, bang, boom. We were home at 10 o'clock.
Oh, lovely.
So driving up to the studio today, Lindsay was prepared to drive, thinking that I'd be coming home, wrecked with no sleep and home late. And the fact that I got 8.5 hours of sleep last night, I'm ready to go today.
There you go. Thanks for sharing that. What a lovely lesson in curiosity.
First, and another first.
And open-mindedness to get a first at this point in your life.
So
wonderful.
Let's flip it right back at you now that you've had time to percolate.
Oh, Oh, I know what I'm grateful for. I mean, how could I not have just an incredible amount of gratitude coming off the weekend we came off of? I'm grateful for Vermont and fall foliage and Killington and Mount Stowe and all these incredible, wonderful places. And for my nephew, Ian Doyle, and his new beautiful bride, Abby Doyle. They got married this weekend.
Oh, awesome.
In Killington, Vermont. My
my
oldest nephew.
That's right around the corner from here.
Right around the corner, up on the almost Canadian border next to Lake Champlain, and kind of about a 2-hour drive from there once you fly to Burlington. And, it was just spectacular. It was, my heart's full. It was incredible to see family we haven't seen in a very, very long time.
Weddings and funerals are good at that.
Well, it's felt like a lot of funerals lately.
Well, because it has been.
Yeah. You and I are at that place in life where more of our people are closer to the 18th green than they are to the first tee box. And it's felt like a lot of goodbyes and see you laters. And this was just a nice way to break that up. And, between my oldest son, Miles, getting engaged a couple of weeks ago and Ian's wedding this past weekend, and gratitude that Amy and I got to spend our 28th wedding anniversary amongst the fall foliage, something we haven't done since the day we were married in the fall foliage 28 years ago. So that was a
and
super
the fact that they
treat.
Still have fall foliage 28 years later is pretty spectacular.
I mean, with all the AI and technology changes and electric vehicles, you'd think that, fall foliage doesn't exist anymore. It was just another really, really cool experience that we just got to be really, really present and had very, very, very little cell coverage. So Vermont,
how nice.
Vermont has kind of stayed back in the 1980s with.
They don't have the internets?
Very little internets and very little cell phones. So it was kind of nice to be amongst the covered bridges and
the Oreo cookies
and the 17th and 18th century churches and cemeteries, and of course lots of Oreo cookies because that's just how you roll at a wedding. But yeah, lots of gratitude for the weekend.
Awesome.
It's nice to be back.
Awesome. What are we talking about today?
Well, we're in the middle. We're kind of in the middle of
Aren't we always in the middle like an Oreo?
Always.
Okay.
We're the cream filling between the chocolate sandwich. Yeah. I'm feeling very double stuffed today. We're rewinding here.
We are shaping our story. We're in the middle of that phase of the whole wealth journey process.
Well, since we've unpacked the story,
Yep.
Stage 1,
Yep.
and we've defined the story, Stage 2,
Right.
we now get to have a little dialogue on what it's like to shape your story. 4 steps to the whole financial planning part of the process, one of the 3 legs of the stool that we have, this very equally balanced stool with three equally important parts to helping any entrepreneur prepare for that big exit one day where we have that opportunity to prepare for Life 3.0. And we're going through the second half of that financial planning process. We talked in the last couple of episodes about how really our 2 parts of the process, the personal and financial planning, are really integrated into one another. So even though we've kind of separated these parts out, these really are integrated within one another. So as we talk through this idea of what it's like to go through this process of shaping your story through this part of a financial planning process, you're going to hear some of the personal planning woven into this a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
It's just how we roll.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the old classic CAD software, right? Where you can start to, you had a design concept, right?
Sure.
That's the define in architecture land.
Sure.
But now we've got to actually go beyond the concept and actually start to shape this thing and see ultimately, structurally, if it can stand, if it can weather the storms that will eventually happen. And that's what's so fun about this process, is that it's very iterative with our clients in terms of, well, what does this look like? And then we go, we run it through the software and we see, well, that's probably not what you're looking for. But what if we do this?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I've always appreciated the role you and I play in this part. And I mean, I remember back to the role you played in this part for me, because it was in between that defining my story and shaping my story where I got a little clear on what it was going to look like, what life could look like going forward. And so this is where clarity meets action a little bit, where now we take a little bit of that clarity and put it into practice. And this is what we do one step at a time to go out and build this thing.
Well, and that clarity is the key piece, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, it was for me.
We remodeled our house a couple years ago, And the several years before that, our designer friend, who we eventually hired to help us with not so much the design of the house, but the interior spaces, she kept saying, you got to go to different apps, go to different, buy different magazines, home design, right? You got to get clarity on what's your style, what you like, what you're looking for, what you really want this thing to turn out to be when you're done. And so visually, if you can think of that in the context of a financial plan, right, that's where that clarity and knowing what you really want out of Life 3.0, whether it's the next phase of life and the sale of the business or the transition of the business hasn't happened yet, or this is going to be the phase of life post-exit. That's what's so fun about this.
To think that it can be totally different than what you've been living is where I think I have the most fun when you and I are sitting with a client.
And we see that a lot where clients want a very different, right? They're going to move. They're going to buy a different house, build a different house. In one case, we have a client that's building 2 houses in Montana.
Right.
Because one apparently isn't enough.
Sure.
So you need 2.
Why would you stop at one if you can have 2?
Holy schmoly.
Yeah.
That's 2 billion decisions to make.
Sure. But just this idea, I mean, yes, most of the time when you and I are sitting with people, they have some idea of what they want this to look like. What's really fun is when they don't.
For us, it's fun. It's a little terrifying for them.
Of course. Well,
Yeah.
and the fun part for me has been knowing they're terrified. And again, going back to the old Eisenhower matrix of time management, how this kind of quadrant 2 stuff, this important but not urgent stuff, I mean, this is where it reveals why the procrastination and why we haven't put time into this planning is because I have no idea what it's going to look like, and that idea scares the crap out of me.
Yes.
That there's no direction. Well, that's, I mean.
Oh, we got one of those coming up for you.
We do?
Yeah, we have a new client that actually has been a asset management, risk management client for quite a while, and now they're ready to do some of our whole wealth journey planning.
Oh, kind of exploring.
And the husband is not a clue on what's next.
Oh, I think you were. Oh, I think
life has all been about the work and the family and the kids, and the work and the family and the kids, and the hobbies aren't there, and the vision isn't there, and there's no clarity. Right? There's plenty of money. Is this our friend you were talking about? Probably needs a couple of years of just chilling Nope, different.
out.
That's a different one.
Oh, a different one.
Yes, that's a different one. Who that client has retired and is on a lovely trip right now. Where we're actually going to be in the same city in a European capital in another couple of weeks, and we might get together for a cafe latte.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah,
very, very nice.
He no longer enjoys a beer or 2.
Oh, you told me that one too.
Yeah.
Well, welcome even more into my club.
We could spend the entire rest of the episode telling stories on clients that are either living their why or about to.
Well, okay. So here's what has to happen I think for this part to be successful. To be able to start shaping your story. What I think people get out of this part, if they do what's necessary, is that clarity about, it's possible for me to figure out what's next. And not only possible, but take the work we've done up until this point, like unpacking the story and all these different assessments and the clarity compass, and now starting to create an action plan that has like something I need to do today and tomorrow and the next day, like one step at a time. That whole idea that, how do you eat the elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah.
So that as we shape the story, it can only happen if you're willing to put down the titles, the industries, the college major, the grad school, the degrees, all those labels that have defined the game up till now. As long as you're willing to set all of that aside, because there's bias with all that stuff, right? We've seen it.
Sure.
That we're just going to assume that because I've spent 30 or 40 years doing this, then whatever's going to be next has to be attached to what I've been doing. Well, the most fun I've ever had, and I've seen you have with clients, is when we set all of that aside and have no expectation that there's any connection to that.
Yeah.
And we're going to be open to the possibility of some completely different stuff. And that's when I have a lot of fun. When somebody is scared to death of that possibility, but there's trust in the room and they just let it happen.
Yeah, and they need to embrace that curiosity themselves.
Yes.
Like, that's why this process takes time, and it's not just, 2 meetings and we're done and we're out, because the client needs time to go let some of these things percolate. And, if you're not old enough to know what a percolator is, go look one up. It's, is the coffee maker my parents used to use when we had company. You need time to let these ideas percolate, right? And then in this Shape Your Story, this is where we're also then able to, in keeping with a little construction theme, do a little structural engineering and stress testing this scenario, right? Whatever the scenario is that the client is looking to pursue, is we can help them validate the financial backing of it, the financial validity to it, because they can't see that on their own.
Sure.
Right? They can't see all those different variables and wonder, is this all going to work out okay? Right?
Oh, come on.
That's the whole beauty of this process.
How many people have we met with wealth from a couple of $1 million to a couple of $100 million, and in all cases in between, uncertain that we have enough?
Correct. Based on the desired lifestyle.
Sure. And part of that is by getting clear on what that lifestyle looks like and what that lifestyle costs to support.
Right.
And
we have a brand new client who is in her 70s, has mid to high 7 figures in terms of liquid net worth, lives in a very basic home in San Ramon, California, drives a 23-year-old Prius, and is wondering if she has enough. When I don't think between her pensions and her Social Security, she spends $4 a day.
Right.
I mean, I think you're going to have enough.
Well, okay, so I'm going to point the finger at somebody and blame somebody for why people have that. And I'm not going to suggest these were the original people to blame for why.
Are we blaming people or a company?
Well, isn't a company made up
but we just don't know
people?
the people. We know the company, but
Right.
not the people.
Right. And
I'm sure they're lovely people.
they are they were lovely people. I got to meet a bunch of these lovely people. But back in the day, there was an insurance company called ING, the International Netherlands Group. And okay, I'll give them a little bit of credit because it was a very catchy television commercial. But I think it also messed with people for a long time. This was probably
early 2000s?
Early 2000s. Early to mid 2000s is when I first started seeing this television commercial. Now I think they're just called ads. But back in the day when you would sit down and watch a television show, every 10 or 12 minutes, there would be 3 or 4 minutes of commercials. And this commercial were random people walking down the street with a big old number on their shoulder, under their arm, carrying it as a bag.
It was 3-dimensional.
It was a 3-dimensional number.
Orange number with commas and dollar signs. And
that represented your total retirement savings. And the title of the commercial was, "What's Your Number?"
It was very catchy because we're talking about it 20 years later.
Right. And exactly. And in some cases, you would see people walking around with a suitcase that was in the form of $623,412. Then the next person was carrying what appeared to be like an old boombox on their shoulder, but it was in the form of $1,612,614.
Right.
And that
commas and all
with dollar signs. And the whole theme is your number and what you need for the rest of your life is unique to you, which was great, right? Because it's not some universal, every retiree needs $2 million to retire.
Right.
Right. So I appreciate the fact that they made it unique. Everybody's a snowflake, a fingerprint with unique needs in dollars.
Well, and then the fact that, once I achieve that number, I've arrived. I'm good. I'm done.
There you go. This is where I think it starts to fall apart. Is that it gives you this sense of arrival. First and foremost,
an
that
illusion.
I hit a number and I've arrived and I'm good. And then somehow everything's on autopilot and everything's good.
I just was at a dinner with a bunch of guys a couple Fridays ago, and not the ING commercial, but the concept of, so what's
your
the
number? Sure.
What's the number? And it wasn't specific to the individual. It was just like a generic.
What's the number?
What's the number?
Right.
Like, what do you... Jim,
is it 5?
You're
is
in
it
this,
10?
You're in this business. You do this all the time. I mean, why don't you just come out and tell us what's the number?
Right.
And I said, you're being really funny. I wish this was being recorded, or we could just like have a hanging mic and just make this a podcast episode because this is ridiculous.
Right.
Right. In the same way that the way the food pyramid has been designed to generically give advice on what's appropriate for everyone, this is very granular. This is very individualized on your lifestyle and your habits and your preferences and your wishes and your wants and all of this good stuff.
Sure.
And it was very funny because the whole time we were sitting there, I envisioned everybody having their number on their shoulder, like it was the ING commercial.
Of course.
And as they got up and walked around to get the dessert or whatever it was, woof, they got their number on their shoulder.
Well, other than just being a pain in their ass and calling them out on, really, guys, did you share with them at all what goes into? Because the number, I mean, I didn't want
to clear the room. I said, you got to listen to episode 165, and then you can get the juice from the squeeze that you're looking for right now.
Sure. Or the squeeze from the juice.
Sure.
Either way. It works both ways. You can juice the squeeze or squeeze the juice.
Exactly.
We do everything here on the Whole Wealth Journey. What did you explain to them? How did you explain? I mean, how much of the process did you get into with the guys?
It was not the appropriate time or place to get that deep into it, other than to say that this is a very specific series of conversations and process that we go through to help you answer that. And one friend who's not a client and a do-it-yourselfer was pretty staunch on his number. Like, it's 10.
Okay.
I'm convinced it's 10. It's got to be 10.
How do you come up with that?
And that's what I said. Well, what's that based on?
10,000?
Sure, with the bigger M. He's like, well, the 4% rule. I said, okay.
What's the 4% rule?
Very good. Thanks for slowing us down. The old 4% rule goes way back to the days of Methuselah.
Oh, fantastic.
Which was Eisenhower's mother.
When we used an abacus to figure out retirement planning?
Exactly.
All right, good.
So you take whatever your number is.
So 10 million in this case.
Times 4%.
Oh.
4% is what's referred to as the withdrawal rule, which was an old rule of thumb before they had computers and all this good stuff, that simply said you take whatever you have times 4%. That's what you can safely withdraw from your portfolio, assuming it's invested. And for our compliance friends, assuming it's invested in a 60-40 stock bond ish kind of allocation.
Right.
That you could safely withdraw that on an annual basis and not run out of money.
Likely over the next 30 or so years.
So I was enjoying, we'll make up a name for the sake of the innocent, Bob.
Sure.
Bob's very simplistic. It's 10 with the 4% rule. I'm going to consume $400,000 a year. Great. That sounds like a very reasonable plan.
So do you sense that in just hearing Bob describe this, that Bob just kind of took a snapshot of what his current lifestyle is like and figures, this is what I need to maintain what I'm currently doing?
Yeah. With some padding.
Okay. I guess that is one way to do it.
It was very kind of that classic, how do you measure the wind? You stick your thumb in your mouth
I'm guessing
you wet your thumb and you stick it out in the air and it's coming from that direction. Okay, that's about as scientific as I think he wanted to go.
I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, that your friend Bab has spent a career working for other people and he's not an entrepreneur.
That is correct.
Yeah, that was an easy one because to me, that just, as you describe somebody who is just assuming that whatever my current lifestyle is going to continue, to me doesn't sound, because an entrepreneur, the people that you and I are meeting more and more of, and people who are wired like you and me, it's like, no, what's next? And it's like, it's exciting to think of, we're going to do something completely different. I mean, we may use some of our skills, our talents, our superpowers, our past experiences, our values, our relationships, right? These other asset classes within our whole wealth to help us define how we allocate our time and our energy going forward. But you and I have always been very excited at new, at something different, at building something.
Butterfly.
Yeah, absolutely. And many of the entrepreneurs that we're meeting are looking to design that life 3.0 different. They just don't know what that's going to look like.
Right.
And
not an extended period of no longer working and leisure.
So,
right. A 30-year period of leisure.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
It's going to be building something new. And to figure out what that looks like, whether it's a business or volunteer work or a shed in your backyard, whatever that and all of that, whatever that's going to look like, requires some planning to come into that number to figure out what that looks like. I mean,
and some good validation on that number.
Absolutely.
Hence, that's why we call it shaping your story.
Yes. Now, one thing that is common with a friend like Bob, who's not an entrepreneur, and most entrepreneurs, is that retirement, and you and I know this just from what we've been doing for all these years, retirement isn't what it was 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Retirement isn't this 15 or 20-year period of nothingness that doesn't last very long. I mean, retirement now is potentially like what's next, life 3.0, whatever that looks like. You know, we're talking a long time, and a lot can change within a human's life over that kind of time period.
Absolutely.
Especially
if will change.
Sure. I mean, even if we take the whole entrepreneur, I'm going to build something new out of it and look from even a traditional retirement sense, the first decade that you are off doing what's next is going to look a lot different than the second decade and the third decade. So understanding of this number that you think you've figured out, that's great. How much of that number do you need now?
Some.
How much of that number do you need soon?
Right.
How much of that number do you need later for those later decades? And how much of that number, maybe, will you not consume?
So you may never need it.
You may never need some of it. I mean, I don't know about you, but do you plan on consuming the house you live in? Like, do you plan on turning that into a liquid pile of money for you to spend one day? Or is that always going to represent the shelter?
Well, as we like to say, we live in the house, not on the house.
Right.
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 And in a lot of cases, and we have a number of clients where this has happened, it ends up being the backdoor long-term care plan.
Sure.
Right.
If it has to be.
You live way out and you spend everything else down, and now you've got, $2.5 million of equity in a home, or $1 million of equity in a home, whatever the number is. So no.
Yeah, I don't know about
Or there's legacy. We have lots of clients that have legacy property somewhere.
Right.
A family cabin, a family home somewhere that there's really no intention to ever dispose of that. It's gonna get passed on. So that goes into that never category. And we have clients where the family business is not going to be sold. It's going to be transitioned to that next generation. And that too goes into this, as we like to call it, never barrel.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's kind of the point. And what ultimately, if you're going to work with an advisor to help figure out what's next, this is a really important part. This idea of shaping your story and understanding, okay, sure, what's my number? How much do I have to support whatever's next? But it takes a lot of planning work. It takes some form of a clarity compass and a clarity compass action plan to flush out what I value most and how I want to allocate my most precious resource of time, and how that connects to my relationships and experiences and my health and my values and my superpowers and right? So
yep.
When we figure out what that number is, well, now how we structure that number, how we position those assets to support you over your lifetime really depends upon when you need those assets to show up for different phases of your life. To just universally invest it in one way, one business, one bucket,
one timeline.
Yeah, has really, that's where I think that old TV commercial was really just misleading, is that I've got this one big sum of money and I'm going to put it all in this 60-40, 60% stock, 40% bond, or this.
And I'm going to need all of it at one point in the future.
Right.
Whenever that is.
Right. Exactly.
That's some of the work I'm the most proud of in terms of what we do, is helping clients look at the risk management aspect of all this, right? You and I both grew up in the brokerage communities. They're traditionally referred to as asset management organizations.
Right.
Not a lot of emphasis on planning. They're trying to do more planning, whatever. That's not what we're here to talk about. And for us, it's been much more of a risk management conversation, because as you and I grew up in this concept in money management speak of a buy and hold investor, right? Or what we call buy, hold, and hope, right? Hoping that it works out okay, hoping that your timing is great, so you're not like a different client, Bob, who was 64 when 2008 happened, and he got washed out to sea and was just completely blown to pieces.
Sure.
And then shows up on our shore with, how can you help me put me back together? I'm like, well, you're 64. What do you were taking lots of risk. You got clobbered. I mean, we don't have some magic drawer of a wand that we can wave, right? So we are passionate advocates for this concept of managing risk. And that's why this money barrel concept of having some cash set aside for now, right? And we define now as somewhere between 1, 2, 3. Super conservative clients might go 4 years worth of cash.
Well, it's like you've always said, cash is an asset class, and it has a very specific job, and that's just to be here, to be available, to know.
It is for us. I think we are very unique in our land.
Yeah.
That we believe in cash as an asset class as strongly as we do.
I think our industry is getting better about this. I'm going to be complimentary.
I hope so.
I'm hearing it more, and I have hope within our industry that we're recognizing the importance of having liquidity with how fast markets go up and go down. The more and more advisors I meet, although they may be getting introduced to the idea of cash as an asset class for the first time because they're talking to one of us, they're seeing and they're curious enough and open-minded enough to realize that makes a lot of sense. And I'm finding more and more of our peers are aligned in the thinking. The more of these conferences you and I are hanging out at, we're not as alone as we think we are, which is a really good
lovely
thing. Yes.
That's lovely.
Yes.
The thing that does, first and foremost, is that it gives you time and space.
Sure.
Right? If things in the world get a little nutty, here in the latter part of 2025, is the world nutty at all? I mean, is there anything to get worked up about?
It's never nutty.
Okay.
It's always smooth sailing.
So it gives you time and space to be able to breathe through whatever craze is going on the planet, right? So then, in that context of the soon barrel, we have a block of money that's up next. It's baseball playoff season, one of your favorite times of year. And for a non-passionate baseball fan, this is what I can digest. I can't digest a 162-game season, but I can digest a series of playoff games.
Sure.
And so for me, this is the on-deck circle. This is the next batter in the lineup where strategically we have investments in that on-deck circle, that soon barrel, that are getting ready to be deployed in a couple of years that are going to go backfill that soon barrel.
That's our client who built 2 houses the now barrel. Right. That's the client who was building 2 houses in Montana. We knew 3 or 4 years ago that this was on deck. This was part of the plan.
Yeah.
So we had a little bit of time to let that money percolate and grow a little bit. But there are very, very unique securities that we can use that are comfortable in that 3 or 4 year time frame where there's enough risk that we have the potential for a little bit of growth, but enough risk management that if everything gets kind of wonky and crazy, we're not, fully exposed to where we're going to lose our shirts. Ideally, hopefully, that's the idea. Of course, we can't guarantee anything in this industry.
But that's like having the airbags in the car.
Absolutely.
Right? You're still in the accident.
Right. But
But it softens the blow. It provides safety to all those in the car. And it's still not fun to be in the accident.
Yeah.
But you're going to be able to probably walk away and not be too banged up.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so then we, if you think of this in a bit of a waterfall, coming from the mountains up high with the later barrel and then backfilling the soon barrel and then backfilling the now barrel, then we can go out longer on that later barrel in terms of the timeline that we would need those fruits of the labor, like a vineyard or something that needs 7 years before it's going to produce a grape.
Sure.
We need time for that. So what we've done in this process is we've been able to layer in different periods of time that this money is going to be used. And since they don't have us in control of the markets yet.
We're working on that.
Oh, come on. It buys the client time with whatever may be happening since they don't get to repeat their 50s, they don't get to repeat their 60s, they don't get to repeat their 70s. And this is one of the ways in our risk management process that we're able to do that.
Well, you and I definitely have acknowledged a risk management bias based on one of the decades that you and I grew up in the business. You and I, smack dab in the middle of our career, saw the dot-com bubble pop,
Yep.
the recession that followed,
Yep.
the housing crisis, the mortgage crisis that we felt coming, and then that popped and the entire world went to shit in 2008, and it took years to recover. And you and I, in the middle of our career, experienced the Great Lost Decade, a 10-year period of time where the S&P 500's annualized rate of return was 0%. For 10 years, if you put $1 in the S&P 500 on January 1st of 2000 and you rode that puppy out 10 years,
It was going to double.
your dollar was still worth $1, period.
It was supposed to double.
It was supposed to. In fact, it was supposed to double in 7 years because the average return of the S&P up till then was about 10.5% a year, which means your money doubles every 7 years.
I know we have members of the tribe that lived through that.
Sure, absolutely. So you and I have done a really good job of acknowledging this massive gaping hole in the middle of a 30-year career that created some bias within us, some risk management bias. It's the only 10-year period in time that's ever happened. So the reality is, for money that we have later, and this is where you and I have made some adjustments to how we think and see things, when we have more time, you and I have gotten a better appetite for taking on a little bit more risk because it's the only 10-year period that's ever happened. Yet, if you look back at all the up and down years of the markets go up a hell of a lot more than they go down.
That is very
true.
true.
When we have the time to let an asset bake for the future, we're not opposed as risk managers to taking an appropriate amount of risk.
Amen.
Yes. So getting these money barrels structured is the key to getting out and living your why. And that's what we're going to tackle in the next episode. You know, today, getting that story shaped and developed and
Tested.
Absolutely. With a bias towards risk management, looking at your assets in terms of when you're going to need them over your lifetime based on the things that matter most to you. That's how we believe asset management, shaping your story, that's what that's all about. So let's get into what it looks like to actually get out there in stage 4 and live your why, but we'll do that in the next episode of The Whole Wealth Journey.
I love it. I can't wait.
And with that, my friend,
That's a wrap.
thanks for joining us today on The Whole Wealth Journey. Are you ready to start planning for a future that's rich in wealth and well-being? Then click like and subscribe and make sure you don't miss a single episode of The Whole Wealth Journey.
So if we've struck a nerve with you today, where do people go?
You can find us at GebhardtWholeWealth.com. That's GEBHARDT wholewealth.com. We'll see you next time.
Jim Gebhardt is a registered representative of Integrity Alliance, LLC. Securities and investment advisory services offered through Integrity Alliance, LLC, member SIPC. Gebhardt Group Incorporated is not affiliated with Integrity Wealth. Jim Gebhardt and Matthew Grishman are investment advisor representatives of Gebhardt Group Incorporated, a registered investment advisor. The opinions in this podcast are for informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or investment recommendations. To determine which investment or financial advice may be appropriate for you, consult a financial advisor prior to investing. Any reference to market performance is based on historical information, and there is no expressed or implied guarantee of future performance. Opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of Integrity Alliance, LLC. The topics discussed and opinions given are not intended to address the specific needs of any listener. Gebhardt Group Incorporated does not offer legal or tax advice. Listeners are encouraged to discuss their financial needs with the appropriate professional regarding your individual circumstance.